Thank you so much to the Jazz Ensemble. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? I know you do. Sam? You are? Ben? Andreas? Leander. Give him a big hand. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We're doing well today. I'm William. I'm the captain of the Hunter Robotics team. I've been on this team for 4 years, and it has been the best thing about not just Hunter, but my life here, like my life, in total. It wouldn't be possible without your support, but I just want to get over the general things, what is that thing? So Hunter Robotics participates in a program called First Robotics Competition. We build a new robot like that, each robot like that every single year, and it's a huge monumental effort that you guys will get to know later. But FRC is a home to over 3,000 teams, 3,000 high schools just like us, with students just like us. In Hunter, we have over 45 members. Throughout the year, we hold lessons, we hold weekend workshops. We bring them to our workshop in Midtown, where we have a bunch of crazy, amazing machines and tools that allow them to be engineers and get experience that they will never get outside of, they'll never get basically without robotics. Because at Hunter, Hunter Robotics is probably the only engineering club that offers these experiences at all to anyone who wants to be an engineer. And it helped me know what I want to do with my life. I'm going to study mechanical engineering at Columbia next year. And now that I'm about to leave, I get really emotional thinking about how much this team, this robot my teammates have impacted my life. It is true. I spent the greater portion of my past year in a workshop working on that robot. But I'm not going to talk for too much longer. I want to hand it over to Riza, who is a freshman this year. She'll be a rising sophomore next year, and I want her to talk about her experiences on the team, too.
Hi, everybody. So as you all know, this is my first year on the robotics team, and I must say this has been the best experience of my life. Being on the Rohawks has given me the experience to learn about STEM subjects outside of my school curriculum, and also it's given me the opportunity to learn more about engineering, such as how to work with tools like drills and CNC mills. And these are tools I never would have imagined using if it had not been for robotics. And not only that, but also working with Rohawks has given me the experience to learn programming, which is really cool since I actually want to pursue a career in computer science when I'm older. So being a part of Rohawks has given me a strong sense of camaraderie among my hunter community. It's also given me the chance to make new friends while also learning more about math, science, and engineering. And if it had not been for robotics, I probably would not have had the confidence to come up here and speak to you today. So thank you. And now I'm gonna hand it over to Yuki, who is a junior and a rising senior next year. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuki. I'm a rising senior, and at first when I joined the team, I had no clue what robotics was. Thank you. I had no clue what robotics was, and I just didn't know what engineering, like what is designing, what is building, well, what is this Alliance Bernstein that we hear of? And 3 years later, I've made my best friends in robotics. Like truly, we spend all our time just watching videos of robotics, which sounds really nerdy, but it's really fun. It's really fun because you're with the same people that have the same passion as you. And I've grown to love robotics. All these people here, I think this is the best team actually in Hunter because we're so dedicated to this one machine. And I really learned so much, and this is all thanks to all of your support for this team, so thank you so much.
So Yuki brought up one name, Alliance Bernstein. So they're our corporate sponsor. I brought up a workshop they work in. So we work in an office, like a literal office, like an IT job, and how people have cubicles. We work basically in a big cubicle. But besides that, I want to show a video. If you can get that ready to go. I think that it's kind of hard to describe how much work and time we put into this robot on this team without just showing you what we do over the course of the year. So this video basically crammed in a year's worth of robots. And I hope it strikes something from you guys.
Do me the favor of wrench with good mechanical bond, right? So you want your wires so you want to have a connection that works before you even doing the soldering. So you just kind of like free them up, put them together, and then twist them.
What? Yeah, I am.
And a red line has been awarded an auto quest as we begin our tally operated period. As LIC RoboDogs put one into the switch. Looking to balance, 5781 puts one into the scale, but 3419 adds one back.
And welcome, folks, to our quarterfinals here at Hudson Valley Regional. We've got our 1-seeded Alliance in the red and our 8-seeded Alliance in the blue.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things thrown at you in that video, but I think the message is that we pour our hearts into robotics and we try to make it the best we can, not just for ourselves, but for every single Hunter student we can reach. We try to outreach and give these experiences to anyone who wants at Hunter. If they want to be an engineer, if they want to work for technology, if they want to work with business or outreach, we give that opportunity to them and we try to foster their interests and their passion as much as possible. Because you guys give us so much support, all our sponsors give us so much support and backing that we feel it's our responsibility to pass that on to every single Hunter student here who wants it. And it just wouldn't be possible without you guys. So now we're gonna do a live demo of the robot of sorts. Is there a Miss Niños? Ah, cool. We're gonna. Yeah, so this works like 5 minutes ago. Instead, just can you shoot it out? Oh, okay, there you go. Lift it up higher, Vicky. You can? See, right step by right, it's gonna punch out.
Here's the magic.
Our team would not be here today. So here's a gift for you.
Thanks so much.
So now we get to the part of the program where we hear from you and the wonderful memories that you have of Hunter. Let's start with Shirley Billy Willinger, Brom Hall.
Well, this may be the last reunion of the high school class of 43. I, Shirley Willinger Bramhall, am making the talk this year, but Connie Homney Canrack and May Cantor Sheraton, who have worked hard on this reunion, wrote it with me. So I want to start with a Connie Homnick story. Shirley Willinger, a naive young girl from the Bronx, took the test for Hunter College High School, passed it, and entered Hunter in January 1943. I rode the subway down. I walked into the school. A young woman approached me and said, "My name is Connie Homnick, and I am going to be the first woman president of the United States." Connie made me feel so good, so proud, and she gave me an introduction for the first time in my life, but far from the last, to something I learned was the women's movement. We had gone to school until Hunter with kids from our New York neighborhoods. Hunter was different because it included talented, low-income to high-income girls, wealthy families in Manhattan who would normally have sent their kids to fashionable prep schools, sent them to Hunter if they could pass the test because of its high-quality education. Some of you may know Jean Jimmy Austin was one of those girls. I remember we were in awe. She went to dances and football games, frequently on weekends in New England, a world apart from us Brooklyn Bronx girls. But one of us, Rita Glansman and I, wore the right kind of saddle shoes, but noticed that the heels on our loafers were too chunky. So we took a walk down Fifth Avenue and discovered a store called I. Miller with loafers with little flat patty cake heels. So we each bought a pair to fit in. Let me follow with a quote that Connie gave me when helping to prepare this speech. She said, "Attending Hunter College High School made me feel special, genuinely made me feel special. I wanted to be the first woman president in the United States. I still want to, even knowing it's too late, honey. I had the honor of being, this is Connie speaking, of being president of Hunter College High School. It reinforced my interest in politics, which I never lost. I taught many students at General MacArthur High School over the years. My experiences at Hunter made me an effective and caring teacher of politics. May Cheriton talked about learning Latin at Hunter. She says, why learn a dead language? Learning Latin for 3 years was a gift to me, she said, because it made me understand the roots of my mother tongue and its offspring, and pulled me to the wonderful world of literature that inspired me to a job involving books, and finally a career as a medical librarian. To come back to me in the 1940s Bronx, when I attended elementary school, our teachers were predominantly maiden ladies who made a career of teaching, who really cared about their students, who guided each of us in the direction that would help us to make the best of our lives career-wise. They got to know the learning level of each of us and sent us in directions to realize our greatest ability. They recommended that I take the test for Hunter College High School, where my teachers picked up on my abilities and insisted that I learn. There, Dr. Koch and Ms. Schweppe opened the world of social sciences to me. I wrote my first research report for Dr. Koch on socialized medicine, something I'd never heard of before Hunter. That was the first of many reports I wrote in my life, and many new things I studied. Were my interest science, I would have gotten the same help in finding a learning direction from Mrs. Lilienthal. We learned how to think, to understand problems, to understand how to sort through the possibilities, analyze them, and decide on the best direction to follow and the steps necessary to make it happen. From then on, we were steered in the direction of learning to identify and solve society's problems. Connie and I represent today a class of, 175 girls? There were no boys at Hunter then. Each of whom found our path to successful, useful, satisfying work. Everyone in my class has a story to tell. Move on to my interest in economics and architecture, leading to my becoming a city planner. I developed a love and respect for cities and an interest in how to encourage our cities to develop as good places for people to live in, combining beauty and quality of design with places for people of all sexes, races, and income levels. I followed the paths opened to me by Hunter College High School. I got my master's in urban planning and had the pleasure of working as a city planner with caring mayors in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Denver to develop cities that provided a good quality of life, welcoming to all income levels and races. Was it a straight and easy path? No, but my education at Hunter College High School gave me the tools necessary to research and led to my helping to create workable, pleasant cities and living in. I had the pleasure then of getting a planning job in Denver, Colorado, and working to assure a successful planning department there that meets Denver's needs. I hope all of Hunter's students today receive the quality of guidance from the teachers and classmates that led to meaningful, satisfying, useful careers for me and May and Connie. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Shirley, for that amazing presentation.
There are two of my classmates from the class of June of 43 that I know are still here. But you know, when you hit 90, family comes first. So one of them had something to do for a granddaughter today. and therefore that took precedence. I'm not too sure. I was very glad to be part of the class of 1943. Hunter was such a milestone in my education, and when I heard Dr. Lilienthal's name mentioned, she was the one that encouraged me when I told her that I wanted to do medicine. She said, go for it. I kept in contact with her for over 20 years, and in May, I went back to Howard University to celebrate 65 years of being a physician. I'll never forget that we had to take Latin, and so when I was a pre-med chemistry major, German was very easy for me as my second year language. And then phonics, I remember we had a course in speech, and years later, as part of my many careers, I worked in the Board of Education. There was a time, in order to teach, you had to be examined by a physician to make sure you could serve in the pension system. People were astonished that I could pronounce their names. The phonics from that speech course was really great. My kids went to private school and didn't get the education that I got, but Hunter, you know, I looked on the internet a few years ago and I saw some of these students giving disparaging. I said, they don't even know what they are missing, and they don't know what preparation. So Hunter was a milestone, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope everyone does.
And in January 1948, I have that it's Rose Knopf and Helen Schwartzman Kuzman, who's going to be speaking for the class? Both of you are going to speak for the class. Excellent. Thank you.
Still morning, so I can say good morning. There are 7 of us here today from the class of January 1948. It's hard to believe that 70 years have passed and a lot has changed in the world since then. In 1944, we were the only girls' school whose admission required taking a test, while there were 3 such schools offered to boys. Did those of us who were admitted feel special? We sure did. We arrived by bus and subway at 68th Street from all the 5 boroughs, meeting up with different economic, ethnic, and racial groups that broadened our lives beyond the confines of our local home communities. We were challenged to work hard, learning Latin, physics, chemistry, foreign languages, and trigonometry was going to help us succeed as career women. And in most cases, this proved true. One of the most accomplished and celebrated of our classmates, and you saw it in the point program, was Mildred Spiewak Dresselhaus. She passed away last year, but you see she got all kinds of medals. She won a lot of money at one point, and was probably our outwardly most famous graduate. She was an extraordinary scientist at MIT who won enormous awards for breakthrough discoveries in the study of carbons. A less well-known pioneer was June Divac Schlinwein, the first female engineering student to graduate from Purdue University. Mildred and June's were really, they were both very, very close. They're both friends of mine, but they were both very close because they both loved physics and math, which most of us didn't. How many of you know the name Helen Guggenheimer? She was an exchange student from Wellesley in her junior year, went over to England, met a peer, got married, and the peer turned out to be one of Margaret Thatcher's right-hand men. She stayed over in England. She married a peer called Keith Joseph. 5 of us attending the reunion today were educators that held the following positions: a public school principal, a supervisor of handicapped students, a kindergarten elementary school teacher, a reading and foreign language teacher, that was me, an attorney, and a Times Magazine indexer. Many who were not here became doctors, lawyers, actors, dancers, entrepreneurs, and business executives. Just think about this. We pursued careers in the 50s before Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem were household names for the feminist movement. We were feminists before they were. We did this because at Hunter, we had teachers who actually told us, you can do anything that a man can do. And we bought into this hook, line, and sinker. We have those teachers at Hunter to thank for inspiring us to be independent enough to pursue interesting, rich lives in an era which still encouraged married women with children to be stay-at-home moms. It was difficult for some to juggle the demands of both home and professional lives, but most of us endured. Many of us made long-lasting friendships at Hunter. Of the 50 classmates we were able to contact, unfortunately, some were too ill or couldn't travel long distances to be here. And of course, sadly, too many of them have passed on. I think we speak for many of us who are grateful for the excellent education, love of learning, camaraderie, and warmth that we experienced from 1944 to 1948. And our love and dedication to Hunter College High School will remain with us forever. I'd like to now introduce my best friend, who I met at Hunter 74 years ago. And she's going to carry on and tell you a little bit more about us. Helen Schwartzman Kurzban.
Thank you, Rose. Rose and I have been friends for 74 years. We met on the BMT going from Williamsburg, Brooklyn to Hunter College High School on 68th Street. We both live in Florida and spend time going to the movies, theater, and dinner. We are best friends. I worked as an elementary school teacher, assistant principal, and principal in District 25 in Queens. The superintendent was Joan Kenny, a Hunter College High School graduate. I was probably chosen for the latter two positions because of this connection. I think that this is now called networking. Dr. Whitmer was our history teacher. Okay. She taught us how to organize our thoughts and facts by using an outline. When I took my master's degree at Hofstra in 1969, 3 of us were assigned to work together on a project. We met at the library to start planning. One of the women and I wrote Roman numeral 1 on a blank piece of paper, and we both called out, "Dr. Whitmer!" One day, my husband came home with an article about oral sex which he had copied from a friend's computer. The friend had treated it as porn. My husband, who was an English teacher, said that it was a very well-written piece of research. I looked at the name of the author, Ovidat Camito Offit, known as Avi. She was a psychiatrist and a sex therapist and an author. She had written The Sexual Self in 1977 and a novel, Virtual Love, in 1994, as well as many articles. She was a member of the class of January 1948 at Hunter College High School. She died 3 years ago. If I had attended Eastern District High School, which was my local high school, I probably would have been an A student with very little effort. Instead, I worked very hard to be a B student. I, a first-generation American, daughter of Eastern European immigrants, whose father was an illegal immigrant, am very grateful to have had the opportunity and privilege to attend the finest high school in the city of New York. It changed my life for the better. Thank you. Rose and I want to introduce the 7 people who are still around and were able to get here. Lita Kowalski, Carp, stand up. What? All right, and Marianne Thomas got them. And I want to thank both of their daughters for bringing them here.
Rhoda Chaloff, Siglinda Conrad Lubbers, and Adele Rosenthal Angiers. 7 of us made it here.
Thank you, January 1948. Okay, June 1948.
Okay. My name is Rosalind Weiss Rothman Immerman. There are 9 of us here, and I would like us all to stand up from my class. I'm sure. We have collected and donated to Hunter over $1,400 from the people who are here and from others who could not come to this function. And so greetings from our class. We'd like to dedicate this anniversary reunion to our many times class president and wonderful schoolmate, Dorothy Guan Khan, who passed away this winter. Dottie was the youngest of 3, born in the United States. But when she was 2, her family returned to China. They came back to the States on the last boat to leave Shanghai before the communists took over. The family settled in Washington Heights, where they operated a laundry. Dottie was about 10 or 11, we couldn't pin it down, but she was put back 2 years in school because she did not speak English. She was good in math. A teacher, however, recognized that she was smart and tutored her in English, and then tried to explain to her family about Hunter and what it would mean if Dottie could come to this school. So Dottie took the exam, she aced the math, and passed the English. And she did not realize that she entered a school that accepted her very readily and very quickly, and she soon became class president, and in our annals of 70 years ago, she was voted senior superlative. Got a kick out of that. She moved to Cleveland, she went to Hunter College, moved to Cleveland where she got a master's in social work, and met her husband David Kahn, who was working on his PhD in physics. They married, they had 3 sons who were raised in the Jewish-Chinese tradition. Each one earning a PhD. And Dottie was a social worker, I think in Allentown, Pennsylvania, for most of her years, and kept in touch with several of us who actually talked to her at length about 2 or 3 weeks before she passed away. But she is remembered and honored today. So let us look back to 1948 and to the things that we had. We had a few of our classmates who roller skated to Hunter along Fifth Avenue early in the morning. We had all-girls classes, which we treasured. We had an all-woman faculty, which we treasured. We had one-piece green and blue gym suits with bloomer bottoms, which we did not treasure. We had our gym on the 6th floor, which I believe was just an open space. We ate lunch brought from home in our classrooms because we had no cafeteria. We have memory of one man named Jimmy who operated the elevator in our 68th Street home. On a more serious side, we had free education, and then we could go on to Hunter College and City College, which was free regarding tuition and free regarding books. And we treasure those opportunities. At the same time, we also had in our world gender discrimination, religious discrimination, racial discrimination, economic discrimination, and job discrimination. Additionally, we could boast that we had pens, pencils with erasers, typewriters, carbon paper, landline telephones, and hand-driven mimeograph machines. Yet with all those antiquated objects, this is what we know. Many of our class have doctorate degrees. We had 2 scientists, one who worked with NASA in Texas, one who worked at the Rockefeller Institute. We have 2 lawyers, one of whom did not go to college until she was past 30 after having 4 children, and eventually was voted on to the New York State Supreme Court. We had a college dean, several college professors, a dentist, a doctor, a dental hygienist, several social workers, psychologists, school principals, teachers, managers, and directors, all with our antiquated equipment. Regarding ethnic backgrounds, there are too many to specify and name countries of origins. But we did have at least 8 or 9 Holocaust survivors. And in one case, I'm sorry to say to the person 6 months ahead who wanted to be president of the United States, there was one woman in our class who everyone thought should be the first woman president of the United States. But then we discovered she was not born here. Our survivors actually tried to hide their past, and we did not know readily who was a survivor and who was not. But name a country, and there was bound to be a classmate who could boast of its heritage. Most of us, or many of us here, re-met at our 35th reunion, and subsequently became very good, caring, supportive, helpful friends. Of the group here, we try to meet about every 4 to 6 weeks for lunch or a get-together. We mail, we email, keep in touch, lend a helping hand. There was even one wedding, and the husband boasted he had 2 Hunter women. Now that we are 86, 87, and 88, with fondness and thankfulness for our strong education, we wish that all young people have good health, wonderful ideas, and great endeavors. Those who are at Hunter having a Hunter experience should realize that they are gifted and they're being given a gifted education. Technology and the world happenings are beyond our dreams. But I think as grandmothers and mothers and possibly great-grandmothers, we have a wish. And that wish is that some of our young people put away those iPhones and look at each other, talk to each other, and treasure every moment that they can.
Thank you so much, Rosalind, for representing the class so well. I love hearing these stories. It's really one of my favorite things about reunion is to hear what people experienced at different times at Hunter, while they were at Hunter. The next speaker is from the January class of 1953. That's Irma Jaffe Becker.
Good morning. I heard the name of Audrey Moore before, and I remember her from school days here. Today, I'm going to talk to you about numbers, the numbers of my class, January 1953. This is our 65th reunion. We entered Hunter in January 1949. In those days, elementary classes were 1A, 1B up to 8A, 8B. Students entered school either in September or January, depending on age. Our class was the last winter class to enter Hunter. We were a small class of 99. We were a diverse group and we came from different parts of the city. At least 5 members of our class fled Europe and the Nazis in the late 1930s and early 40s. That may sound like ancient history to some of you, but not to us. When we talk about the war, we mean World War II. 2 of those women are here with us today. Two of us returned to Hunter High as teachers. Renee Ansel Fishman was here briefly, and Anna Cacase Morelli was here for a long time. I hear some of you remember her. Many of you speak about your wonderful teachers here. We too had wonderful teachers, but we had a truly horrible guidance counselor. I tell you what, it wasn't funny. It really was not funny because that's an important position. Somebody here was told that she was the bottom of the class, and it was a revelation to her when she spoke to some others who were also told that they were the bottom of the class. She was told, she's here today, she was told that she was not college material, but she went on to get a PhD. Maybe this counselor helped some, but her destructive words scarred many. However, our women went on to wonderful and productive careers and lives. We're in touch with 52 women. We're spread out. One lives in Israel, one lives in Panama. Others are from across the country. Some are ill or disabled and cannot join us. We know of 18 who've passed away. But because we were such a small class, we were very close. We knew everybody, and there was a very strong bond among us. I could call an alum from out of the blue and say, "Hi, it's Irma Jaffe from Hunter High," and time just melts away. Our alum in Panama put it this way: "I consider it a privilege and a lifelong blessing to have been educated at Hunter High and to have interacted with all of you. We were special, our school was special, and it will always occupy a place of honor in my life." 2 themes permeate the feelings of our alums. Attending an all-girls school was empowering. Sorry, guys. And for many, Hunter gave us our very best education regardless of the schools that followed. Back to numbers. This morning we have 8 or maybe 9 women here. I'm not sure if the 9th showed up. We would have had 2 more, but those 2 don't travel on Saturday. 7 of us meet for lunch during the year. 5 of us winter or live and socialize in Sarasota, Florida. And a 6th comes from down the road in Venice to join us. And a 7th comes down for a visit. For this reunion, 1 came from Chicago, 3 from Florida, 1 from DC. I thought I was going to wow you by telling you that my closest friend of 69 and a half years is here. But somebody beat me to it with a 70-year friendship. Anyway, we met on a very first day at Hunter. Our one claim to fame as far as well-known alums is the very wonderful, very lovely Metropolitan Worldwide Opera star, Martina Arroyo. She was recently on the cover of one of the alumnus, and I've met her here and there at various productions, and she's just as sweet and lovely a person as she always was. Tomorrow we will have 23 at our lunch. That's close to 25% of our original class. It's a testament to the school and to our women. Those are some of our numbers. My wish for the rest of you here is that someday you'll be back here to celebrate your 65th reunion from Hunter College High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Irma. The next class speaker is class of 1958, and I have that Gail Grange person will introduce their song.
During our era at Hunter High School, the seniors put on a play and the seniors sing. We would like to entertain you with some songs from our senior sing.
Showing where there's a way, there's a will.
All right. So on my next list here, I believe. So the class of 1963 hadn't prepared. You didn't prepare anything, did you? You just want to wave to us and tell us, it's fine. You didn't have to. It's just that we don't want to. It's 2 minutes. Timekeepers. 2 minutes. Just to be fair to everybody, I mean, people prepared, and that's why we don't want everybody to be having low blood sugar because we are having lunch after. So, okay.
So we'll be very fast because we didn't prepare because it's not yet our 60th. And next time we'll be back. I'm Peggy Blumenthal,
Nora Taylor Jaffe, and Anita Altman.
Okay. I think anyone else here from 63? No. Okay. So maybe just two sentences, maybe one sentence from each of us. So I was sitting here realizing what the amazing thing about Hunter was the passion of our teachers. And we all say that we got a better education here than we did in our universities. And part of that was because in universities we were taught by graduate students who never learned how to teach. Whereas at Hunter, we had amazing teachers who loved their subject and loved to teach. So a big round of applause to our teachers.
I grew up in the Bronx, and for me, coming to Hunter at age 12 was truly a life-changing event. It opened up the world to me. It opened up the possibility, and I came from an environment in which women had a rather secondary, if domineering, role in the family, but where the expectations were just not there. When Cyril Woolcock, who was the principal, had us at orientation, and he said, mothers, if you do not intend to send your children, your girls to college, don't send her here because that's all we're preparing her for. I turned to my mother and said, does that mean I'm going to college? And she said, I guess so. And we never learned typing because God forbid you should fall back and become a secretary. So night school at, Taft High School down the block while I was a student at CCNY, and I still do. Anyway, it was an amazing, really world-changing experience for me. And if there's anybody else here from the class of 63, please make yourself present. We've, in prior years, had, folks who really organized something, and I dare say 5 years from now we'll do it again. Thank you. We'll see you in 5 years.
Thank you for coming. 1963, the folks from 1963. I know, you stand up here, you're like, oh my God, it's infectious. I got to tell everybody about that, my class, and like what we did. So that's because it's great to hear everybody's... Okay, so now we have 1968. 50-year reunion. So I have, it's Marlena Corcoran. Is that who is representing the class of 1968? Who's going to be your speaker? Or you just come up and go ahead.
So I'm not Marlena. I'm Barbara Scales, and it's a real pleasure to be here. And, oh, I've got my senior song here. I don't want to read that. I want to read the speech. I thought we were going to do the song first. So I need to find it. I need to put on my glasses. That's new. Dear friends, classmates, Hunterites, alumni, professors, principals, assistant principals, directors, people who have made this wonderful school over decades what it has been and what it is today. It is 50 years since we departed. Do you remember how it started? We came from across the 5 boroughs of New York City and took an exam. Then we came to attend school at the castle. On the walls of the college building, I read these words of Ralph Waldo Emerson every day as I walked along 68th Street to the main door. And in 50 years, I have not forgotten them. We are of different opinions at different hours, but we may always be said to be at heart on the side of truth. Hunter taught us as young women to learn about history, literature, algebra, and trigonometry, to learn to research, to keep going until we had grasped what we were seeking. We lived in a fact-based universe, and we also nourished our imaginations. We ran the castle, the AA, the debate society, What's What, our yearbook, the GEO, our class. Some amongst us wrote some of the best satirical songs we may ever hear. We were little sisters and then big sisters in the remarkable family that Hunter was for us. The world was rich and full of possibilities. We knew and sang the songs of our generation, from the freshness of the Beatles, who saw her standing there, to the mamas and the papas, California Dreamin' on a Winter's Day, and Nobel Prize winner Bob Dylan's The Times They Are A-Changing. I remember other characters in Dylan's early songs, The Masters of War, and You Playboys and Playgirls Ain't A-Gonna Run My World. We were certain that they would not have the last word. Do you remember the state of the world outside of our castle walls, the war in Vietnam, poverty, social breakdowns, ghettos going up in flames, the civil rights movement? Some of us protested, some of us worked in political campaigns. We clamored for the vote. We believed, we knew that it was important. We heard a lot about dreams. I was very touched to see the sign on the bulletin board in the staircase saying, "Dreamers, welcome here." Martin Luther King, who spoke about a dream in the summer after we entered Hunter. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. And a few years later, during our journey through Hunter, Robert F. Kennedy told us, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." We were not the men. We were the girls becoming women, and we were dreaming and asking why not. All of us left Hunter having been taught that knowledge would give us the passport we needed to realize our dreams. We are the class of '68. For many in the world, it was a year of despair, of determination, of hope, a year when students insisted that it was right to march to a different drum. To say we can and must do better. A year of advancement, of protest in the streets of New York, of Paris, the streets of Memphis. It was the year of the encampment on the mall in our capital city, of the poignantly named Resurrection City, planned by Martin Luther King, but only realized after his assassination. But we were optimistic. We believed that our learning could bring change. In our senior song, we say, our response to affairs of state is quite simple: innovate. We became teachers, doctors, lawyers, judges, social workers, psychologists, researchers, scientists, writers, historians, artists, editors, partners. We looked after our parents, we raised our children, we climbed the barricades. We spread across the country and around the world. We observed the sometimes glacial pace of social change while we watched the tools of our world transition into what had only been imaginable as science fiction. Men on the moon, women in space, computers, the internet connecting potentially everybody on the globe, the Internet of Things, friendly robots, and also not so friendly bots. We have seen walls go up on the internet. We have seen our country and our world go through order and disorder, anger and complacency, shredded by the bullets and bombs, even in our schools, never sure that the perfect balance of growth, insight, and stability would ever be found. And here we are, 50 years later, and what have we got? Just 4 years ago, a 17-year-old girl, Malala Yousafzai, received the Nobel Prize for Peace. And now there is another class of 17, 18, 19-year-olds who are due to graduate this year, the kids of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
No, and so.
The kids of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. They and we are still marching to Washington. Reading the headlines, the playboys and playgirls seem to be running our world. But the faces on the cover of Time magazine are also those of people whom I like to think resemble the dreamers we were at their age. Let's celebrate our class, ourselves, our accomplishments, but let's also acknowledge that there is much left to do. And let's be there on the journey with the 17, 18, and 19-year-olds who emerge from high school year after year with an education and a passport to realize their dreams, which are in so many ways still our dreams. They say history is written by the victors. Let us be the ones to write the history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Class of 1980. Oh, no one? It's not on? Okay, I'm sorry about that. I guess we have a sing now for the class of 1968. Okay. All right.
Stand and sing.
No. Put it on. Oh, come on, put it on. I put it on. Put it on.
It's a very special day. Senior 68 have now arrived.
great. Well, thank you for that. And so now we have, we're going to go to the class of 1983. No, we're not. Okay. I didn't have that on my list either. You prepared. Yeah. Did they? I guess it's 2 minutes, though, because we only have,
We were always very spontaneous. Thank you, class of 68, for that. That really took us back. We were babies, and you were our big sisters. It was a very serious time, and we were babies at a serious time. So we really appreciate seeing all of you. We have no idea who was who and who was our big sister. You know, that robot really made me think. We were happy when we got a new hand-cranked pencil sharpener. And complaining about this building, you didn't experience this, but we moved from the castle to an office building, and our gym, poor Dee Dee Condon, but our gym consisted of sitting on the floor. There was a bar, you know, like a ballet bar, and we threw a ball back and forth. We were not leaders in that league. So this is Yehudi Moat.
This is Laura Lewis.
Mandalise. And she has here What's What, and you'll see the headline, Vietnam Arts Assemblies Presented for High School. So it was present all during our time at Hunter. The girl who sued to get into Stuyvesant was in my homeroom class. We were the last class to go through Hunter only with women. And I remember in 8th grade I could wear pants to school, but in 7th grade I couldn't.
We were inspired by you, class of 68, and we went through traditions that disappeared in the years we were there, and we went through a very political time. Here's a picture of when we walked out after Kent State, and here there was a survey of attitudes divided by class, of your attitude toward the Vietnam War. We had African American studies. I thought Susie Robeson was like the biggest person I ever saw. She was a 12th grader. And we were involved. We had clubs. We had a lot of the traditional. If anyone wants to see our yearbook, we had a lot of the traditions, but we also had a Women's Liberation Club, Jewish Student Club. We had teachers who were out and gay, and that inspired me in different ways. And we had all sorts of our identities and courage, and as you all said, our thinking and our loving teachers.
And just one more point. To get the African American studies, they sat in the principal's office, and they got what they wanted. And so the Jewish students thought, good idea. So we sat in at the principal's office, and we got a Hebrew class.
I've spoken to this group several times, and it's always intimidating because I'm always the first man to speak for the class. When we came to Hunter, it was a time of change, literally. Our big sibs were all women, seniors, and we also had 10th grade boys as big sibs. And I have a few prepared remarks. As the first class to both begin and end our Hunter careers here at 94th and Park, welcome to our building. We feel, and as we all do, that Hunter is really the crown jewel of New York's public education system. And the class of '83 cherishes the fact that we were fortunate enough to pass that test and be able to join and become part of this really unique community of learners for 6 of the most formative years of our life. Our Hunter was a marvelous place, and it was a refuge for many, as it was for many of you. Even as the city around us seemed sometimes like it was coming apart at the seams. When we entered in 1977, it was the year that Star Wars was released, and so was Saturday Night Fever. The first Apple computer went on sale, and the King Tut exhibit came to the Met, and you had to go stand in line for hours to get your 4 free tickets, and some people sold those to other people, and Got lots of nice ice cream out of it. Jimmy Carter was president. Disco and mainstream rock were beginning to be eclipsed by punk and funk. And right before we started at Hunter, it was the great blackout of the summer of '77. And with it, we were all hit with the outlash of violence and anger and fear and anguish that we saw in our neighborhoods and read about in the Post and the news and saw on TV. The Bronx was burning, they said, as we began our Hunter careers. And New York itself was full of mystery and promise and threat to the 260-odd number of us, and there's an emphasis on odd there, who came together from all 5 boroughs to become the class of '83. Our time here saw huge changes in ourselves and in our city. We grew physically, emotionally, and intellectually. I didn't grow that much physically. And we really grew together as a class. We witnessed the birth of Reaganism and hip-hop and the death of John Lennon. Star Wars, the movie, became Star Wars, the Strategic Defense Initiative. Do we remember that? We saw Grenada invaded, and we also witnessed that the height of cool moved from flannel shirts and tie-dyes to ripped jeans and leather jackets with safety pins. And then we lived through the birth of preppiness and really significant shoulder pads. It was a confusing time in many respects. Our class came to be characterized, like so many others, by the closeness of the relationships that we made and the great friendships that we spawned. We had so many great teachers, people like Jane Lewis, Irving Kisner, Francine Salzman, Jack McNeil, and many others. And we had some not so great teachers too. But all in all, this was a remarkable place and a remarkable experience. Our teachers and our schoolmates challenged us to back up our opinions. And I think most importantly, to respect the arguments and opinions of others. We all felt lucky to be here, and our friendships are lasting a lifetime. After 35 years, our class has made its mark. We're teachers, we're scientists, researchers, lawyers, doctors, fathers and mothers, leaders of nonprofits, business people, homemakers, authors and artists, and we're many other things as well. I'm proudest to say that we're good people, and that's what Hunter is about, making good people. We are now caring adults, and we give back to our communities in many different ways. We all acknowledge that we owe a great debt to this school for bringing us together and inspiring us to be the people we are today and who we'll still become. The class of '83 is happy to give back generously to Hunter and happy to support efforts that will continue to maintain our school as the crown jewel in our city's public education system. Thank you.
Very well said, Matt. Okay, so now we have the class of 1988. As a former president too, good to see you.
Hi, I'm Tai Wong, class of 1988. I think I see about 30 of our classmates here, which is a pretty good showing, guys. Ladies? So I just realized that Matt and I overlapped about a year at Hunter and wouldn't really know each other very well, but our speeches are a little bit similar. So it's been 30 years since the class of 1988 went to the prom at Windows on the World at the World Trade Center. And since we doffed our Squid Vicious t-shirts, our mascot, and we wanted to use Ira the fascist pig as our mascot, but Mrs. Eichler said no. And that would have... I met Mrs. Eichler 15 years later, and she was pretty much still the same. So I've always thought of 30 years as a generation. I think that's right. Many of us, myself included, have children who are now in high school or graduating from high school. We're deep into our careers, worrying about the future, and taking care of our parents, many of whom are in the twilight of their lives. But it's been a good 30 years. To start, almost everyone is still with us, though we remember David Smith and Seth Specken, who I think are the 2 members of the class who are no longer with us. Jill Slater, who actually organized the reunion, has obsessively tracked down all but 10 of the 193 members of the class, which is a tremendous accomplishment. So we found that the class of 1988 has a tremendous number of people in education as teachers and professors, too many to name. We also have authors, lawyers, physicians, and a couple of virtuoso musicians. I'm told that one of our classmates is one of the top 3 jazz pianists in the world. We have a senior Googler, one who runs a $30 billion hedge fund, and even a commodity trader. That's me, the commodity trader, not the guy who runs the $30 billion hedge fund. So as I reflect, what's changed in a generation? For one thing, language. To millennials and centennials today, there's like a new dialogue that sounds like Latin, forgive me, to many of us Gen Xers. So I'd like to give you a couple of examples which amused me. So one rainy Saturday, no college visits, no softball games, I said to the kids, let's just turn on Netflix and chill out. And my 16-year-old daughter looks at me and says, Dad, that doesn't mean what you think it means. So for those of you who don't know what that is, I guess you should Google it. But if I want to gross out the kids, I just tell them, I'm going to Netflix and chill out with Mom. Now, then there's slay. My day, slay meant Dungeons and Dragons, but I think it means something else now. Salty, which my son uses all the time, doesn't mean savory or off color. There's another meaning. And then finally, a word that I learned just a few months ago, woke. It's not about getting out of bed. There was a young associate who said, Ty, you wouldn't be considered woke. And I'm pretty thankful for that. Maybe because I can't understand another term that they use, goals AF. I have no idea what that means. So recently, my wife Judy, who was also class of '88, and I went to see Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. The highlight of the night was Good Night Saigon, when Billy brought up members of it was Fleet Week, members of the Navy who were in town to sing with him on stage. And I realized that none of the servicemen and women who were up there were alive when that city was still called Saigon. And it also reminded me that, our generation, or my generation really, is the last generation of the Cold War. But for us and our parents, through our parents, we remember World War II, we remember the Cold War, existential struggles of our time, but 10 years later, people who were born 10 years later, Vietnam is just a place. So with a child in high school and in middle school, I realized how great Hunter really was. Here we were treated like adults when we were in this, since we were in the 7th grade. We're not taught to write essays with a rubric that has to be followed, even though the result is wooden crap. I have a 7th grader who writes this, and I'm like, what is this? But we have to follow the rubric. I don't think we ever had that here. We didn't need bathroom passes or late passes, and we could stop at our lockers anytime we wanted. And we could all go out to lunch. Well, I think starting in the 9th grade. I also realized that we're blessed by the quality of our fellow students. We might have been a little geeky, a little bookish. Some of us, not all of us were saints, but compared to what I see today, I think Hunter was an oasis of calm and serenity. The counseling department was a treasure, as most of the parents in the room will realize. Judy and I are supposed to fill out now for our rising senior a brag sheet about our child. And our counselors knew us intimately. We never needed to do that. Our parents never needed to get involved. Now, our kids, have good teachers, but Hunter had giants in the faculty whose tenure and reputation spanned generations and made Hunter a really special place. And it's names like Matt just shared with you, like Kisner and McNeil, Mrs. Goldsmith, who is standing right there. Ms. Morello, Laster, Anna Boxo, who was really, really special. And the finest teacher I've ever known, Ira Marienhoff, chairman of the Social Studies Department for 25 years. So I have great memories of Hunter. I've met the love of my life here. I'm always happy to be back. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ty. All right, now we have the class of 1993, 25-year reunion. There you go, right over there. You'll introduce yourself, right?
If you had asked me to predict which class would talk about oral sex, I would have gotten it wrong. My name is Alec Lev, and I bring greetings from sunny Los Angeles. I am speaking today for the class of 1993 and our 25th milestone reunion. Now, I actually gave a speech here 5 years ago for our 20th reunion, and since then, not much has happened. I got a car. It's a Honda. I saw a movie last week. What did we see, Joel? Solo, right. It was okay. It was okay. But enough about me. And remember, I come from Los Angeles, where but enough about me is not something you hear very often. It's actually my time in Hollywood that has given me the language to use to express the question that has vexed me for so long. What accounts for the success of Hunter graduates? Are they born that way, or does it happen here in this building? Or in Hollywood terms, is it in the casting or in the writing? Right? Is this movie so good because of the actors or because of the script? Now, how does it work here? Maybe it's the education. Or maybe it's just the great screening tests, either the test to get into the elementary school, or if you're not smart enough to pass that, the test to get into 7th grade. I'm kidding. We are all Hunterites, all made equal in the eyes of Marienhoff. And as such, we need data to answer my question. We need case studies. In the class of 1993, our most famous case study is Robert Lopez, Bobby. And as many of you know, he's had some incredible achievements. He saw Star Wars 13 times by the time he was 6. He was the lead in our 5th grade play of Kiss Me Kate right here. What else? Oh, he won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. You know, that's actually a typo. He won 2 Emmys, 2 Grammys, 2 Oscars, and 2 Tonys. Take that, Lin-Manuel. No, it is not a competition. But how many Oscars did you win, Justice Kagan? That's right. Those are, of course, our most well-known case studies, but let me tell you about a few others that you might not have heard of. Our first case study was, of course, bright and did well in all things, but never considered herself particularly adept at math, until some inspiring Hunter teachers changed her outlook. Later, with a master's in education, she saw many problems in the way math was taught, and she stepped up and became a high school math teacher herself. She then stepped up to a PhD in educational policy leadership and instructional practices at Harvard, and now does policy analysis to help support kids who don't typically have access to secondary math. She credits Miss Basius and Miss Strauss for giving her the confidence in her abilities, and credits Hunter more generally for trusting her with responsibilities. It's like in theater, she remembers, they said, "Here are the keys, go put on a show." Our second case study skipped 1st grade, which should show how good that casting choice was. She now studies how people learn through the arts. She's a full professor of education and has run 2 arts and education programs for kids who don't have access to art in their lives, and she's writing a book about it all. She says that taking that kind of leadership was instilled in her here at Hunter, that gave us leadership opportunities at such a young age. Then there's an alum who I met in 1979, that is 6 presidencies ago, not counting this one, because I don't. Seemed like I'd be safe making that joke here, I don't know. She was my first friend and first brief half-decade crush, and in 2007, with a background in hospitality and publicity, she launched a small business that went on to define a new category in health drinks. After its extraordinary success, she's now working for the Board of Wellness in the public schools to help bring healthier school lunches and fitness activities to kids. It's all about communication, and she credits Hunter with fostering those skills. Next, a woman who excelled at Hunter from day one and who now works for a small nonprofit created by another Hunter alum that provides telemedicine, primarily in the crucial area of abortion services for women who don't otherwise have access, either from lack of resources or lack of opportunity, or both. Her work is a constant stream of problem solving, and she said this was a skill that she learned at Hunter. Finally, one amongst our class is the CEO and president of the California Association of Public Hospitals, a group that helps in the creation of the Affordable Care Act and that lobbies on behalf of patients who are either uninsured or on Medicaid. Every day, every minute, she says, is an exercise in her critical thinking skills, and she credits that to Hunter. How I think and write, she says, was instilled by Lois Refkin. And then she says, her love of government and her appreciation for a pluralistic society came directly from Messrs. Kagan and Marienhoff. And if that group seems impressive, those are just the people named Erica. Okay, one of them's over there. We have 5 of them. 4 of them will be coming tonight to our party. Most of our 10 Davids will be joining us, and about 100 of us in total are going to gather for our 25th reunion. So what have we learned here today? Nature, nurture, do we pick them or do we make them? Well, as with all of the best that comes from my West Coast hometown, the answer is obviously both. A great cast paired with a great script gives you something that these and so many other Hunter graduates give the world, a great story. And I have one more of those. It's a reunion story. Kimani Rogers and Jenny Ono and I, and several others, met in Miss Holder's nursery school class. That was before someone found the need to create the oddly less specific name pre-kindergarten. Well, Kimani and Jenny went on to date in high school, and then they went their separate ways. They reconnected at our 20th reunion 5 years ago, and today they are married. And they have a child, and her name is Erica. I'm just kidding, it's a boy, that's not her name. Happy reunion, everyone.
Okay, that was great. Alec, I think you might be the MC next year. All right, thank you, and enjoy the 25th reunion. That's awesome. All right, so 1998. All right. Excellent.
Yeah, one thing I did notice is once we had the class that was the last class of all women, your speakers have trended in one gender. So apologies to that, but I am what I am. I can't change that in the next 10 minutes. And I've got a tough act to follow, so I'm going to do the best I can. But let's just tackle the elephant in the room right away. I'm clearly not the most successful person from the class of 98. I'm also was not the most popular person in that class, but what I was the 33rd best debater in New York State as a sophomore. Unfortunately, you had to break to 32 to continue in the tournament, but that's neither here nor there. They've asked me to kind of dig deep and use those oratory skills today, so and I think I was also the only person that really rose their hand for the job, but that's not important. But I know that there are a lot of milestone classes here that we've heard from, and there are more that are going to follow me. So I'm going to do my very best to follow the 5 B's. Be brief, brother, be brief. Now just, can you guys, yes, you got it. But for all of you guys who are from the milestone classes, do yourself a favor. Just give yourself a hand for coming back home. So I think that's what a lot of us consider these 4 walls, brick prison, whatever you called it during your time here. But speaking of home, just by a quick show of hands, how many folks in the room have an older sibling? An older sibling. Now keep in mind, now of those of you with your hands up, how many of you had an older sibling who ruined something for you? They missed curfew, so now you can't go out. All right, so those of you who still have your hands up, you guys probably are well familiar with the plight of the class of 98. Now, to be clear, I'm not going to spend my entire 5 minutes airing grievances about the class of 1997. But it felt a lot like every Hunter tradition kind of abruptly ended when it was our turn to step up to the plate. Now, back in the day, each grade had their own locker hallway. You know, the seventh graders start on the fourth floor, furthest away from that main entrance. You slowly moved closer and snaked your way down until, as a senior, basically walked in the door, 2 brisk flights of stairs, and there you were. Well, and I don't know the reason for this, but once we became 8th graders, we never left the 4th floor. I can't pin that on the class of 97, but I don't know where else to look. And then there was the Philadelphia trip. It might have been the DC trip. I'm not exactly sure. I collaborated with some of my classmates, and we couldn't really land on what the city was. But the fact of the matter was there was a trip that you went on in a certain year. Now, as the streets tell it, there was a group of individuals in the class before us that may have helped themselves to some 5-finger discounts during that trip. And when our turn came to have that same trip, it was gone. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the big show. It's where the junior class would unveil their mascot, but they'd also put on a show during which, there would be some light-natured ribbing of the faculty, and we'd all have a good chortle. Now, wouldn't you know it, but the class of 1997 didn't just push the envelope, they lit it on fire and took it a little too far. So when it was our turn, we just got to get out there, sing our song, show off our chimp daddy, and that was basically it. Now, we did lose out on a lot of things, but the one thing that we didn't lose out on were the feelings of community and inclusion that I've actually been hard-pressed to find anywhere else since I've left Hunter. I've been fortunate enough to be on the coaching staff of a Michigan basketball team that won the NIT and cut down nets in Madison Square Garden, go blue. But that experience is second in my competitive life to winning our 3rd state championship as a Hunter debater because of the community, the feelings of camaraderie, and the bonds that we're able to forge as Hunter students. And if you guys have been watching all the reboots of the mid to late 90s shows, it's pretty clear that as a society, we're far from woke back then. But at Hunter, we had so many different groups that celebrated our differences and that were inclusive that you didn't have to be of to stand with. We had 10% plus, we had ACS, we had double ACS, we had as many A's as you could imagine. And after being in and around high schools as a coach for much of the last 2 decades, the schools I worked with are behind where Hunter was during my time in the 1900s. Now, while we missed out on some of the traditions of Hunter, I am interested to learn and glad to hear from folks who spoke earlier today that feeling of inclusion and family is still around today. I'm interested to hear in the traditions that have been created in the last 20 years. And Hunter still feels like home to most of us. And I just hope for the robotics kids and everybody else that the older siblings stop screwing it up. Thanks, guys.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, we have a class of 2003 coming to speak.
Hello. And a woman and a man. My name's Claire Friedman. This is Eli Adler. We're both from the class of 2003, and we're also both alumni board members here. We have, I think, 2 other people from the class of 2003. Yeah. Oh, 3, great. So everybody else has put us to shame, but next year we're going to do better. I have a feeling that we're going to see more people at the drinks portion of the reunion tonight. So I guess we're each just going to share one quick memory about our time here, and then, get on to the rest of the speeches. So.
Yeah. Lucian touched on the extracurriculars. I was really happy that, that's where you can define yourself. So I was able to go out there and be really cool and join the math team, the chess team, play poker. It was nice that Hunter is inclusive for people to do all their nerdy stuff. It was great that way.
Yeah, and I guess extracurriculars were very important to me as well in high school. When I was in 7th grade, I remember coming here and auditioning for Brick Prison, which was a student-written play that happens every year. Saw posters for it in the hallway. And for the audition, one of the things that I had to do was sing in front of a number of people, and I can't sing, and to this day, I'm still entirely unable to sing, but one very friendly senior helped me muddle through my singing, and then very generously even cast me in his play, and so naturally became a hero of mine, and it turns out he became a hero of everyone else's too, because that was Lin-Manuel Miranda. So thank you to Lin. I now work professionally in entertainment, so thanks to Lin for seeing me and believing that I could play 7th grader at a party. So that was yeah.
We're also both on the alumni board, and I do believe that donating to Hunter is great, so it's good to see everyone here. Hunter, because everyone's so smart, there's a lot of influential people that come out of it, and there's some very influential people. So what we do, everything we do enriches their lives while they're at Hunter, and I think it's important to enrich it in a good way and make sure they're not infamous and they're famous and good people that go on for good things. So everything we do helps them have a more positive experience at Hunter. So thank you.
Guys.
Excellent. Okay, so now we have, and we're just 10 minutes away from lunch. Okay, so like whoever has low blood sugar, like I do right now. So we have 2 more classes that are going to speak. So 2008 and 2013. So first 2008. Yes, it's here. Excellent.
I have the coveted pre-lunch spot, so. Good afternoon, my name is Ben Samuels-Kalo, class of 2008. 10 years ago, thank you, I had the honor of speaking for my class actually at our graduation, and like our graduation speaker that day, I went on to become a public school teacher. Unlike our graduation speaker, I did not go on to write Hamilton. If you ever find yourself following Lin-Manuel Miranda on stage, don't. I have 4 minutes to speak to you about what Hunter has meant, our memories, in the same vein as all the other speakers. I'm not going to do that. I'm in a room full of people who have won the lottery, and so I'm going to take my remaining 3 minutes and 30 seconds to ask you to make an investment. What lottery did we win? When we were in 6th grade, or maybe when we were in preschool, we held a ticket to take a test, and everyone we ever met here won that same lottery. We're not smarter than the 4-year-old who sat next to us who missed the cut score. We're not smarter than the 6th grader who didn't have the test scores to even take the Hunter test. I won the lottery and I came to this school where I was never unsafe and I was never bored. Not everyone wins that lottery, but we all did. New York City is the most diverse city in our country. We also have the most segregated schools. We rode from 5 boroughs to get to Hunter. If you ride the 6 train 20 minutes north of here, you're in District 12 in the Bronx. In 7th grade at Hunter, we read To Kill a Mockingbird. In District 12, fewer than 1 in 5 7th graders can read on grade level, and 1 in 10 will go on to college. 1. We rode from 5 boroughs to get here. We won the lottery. Our families worked hard and sacrificed. Some crossed oceans, some of us crossed oceans. We worked hard and we sacrificed. All of that is true. All of that is true and none of it is unique. All of that is far more comfortable to say out loud than to admit that we were at some juncture in our pre-K or 6th grade year unbelievable benefactors of a sequence of events, test scores, prep courses, family supports, and luck. Families everywhere sacrifice and work hard. There are nerds everywhere. Theater nerds, robotics nerds, both kinds of nerds. Some get to go to a school where they are never bored and they are always safe, and some don't. I spent the last 5 years teaching in the Bronx, and next year we'll found a public school in District 12. Over the past year, alongside a team of parents and teachers and community members, we made the case for a new school. Research best practices, travel around the country, study in high-performing schools. We got to see the inner workings of 50 schools that, like Hunter, are full of lottery winners. I'm about to run a school where the admissions criteria is literally a lottery. I chose to be a teacher because I got to go to this school where I was never bored and I was always safe. I won the educational lottery. And the thing about winning the educational lottery is that you have to invest your winnings in making the world a better place. You have to give a damn. And I know I'm speaking to a diverse and distinguished crowd, so please know that I know that many of you undoubtedly give some of what I'm about to ask. But our public schools will only be good if people like us give a damn. That could be giving money to a school, and I wouldn't say no. That could be volunteering at a school, and again, I wouldn't say no. But giving a damn isn't giving money, and it isn't necessarily giving a lot of time. Giving a damn means the next time someone says, those kids, you ask who exactly are they talking about. Giving a damn means participating in community board meetings and going to community education council meetings. And when you hear an angry parent claim that they are entitled to a seat for their child because they want it, but a Black or Latino family is undeserving, you call it what it is. We all have opinions. We all have opinions on what good schools are. I'd say pretty informed opinions. But sometimes giving a damn means wading into a debate with an open mind and a closed mouth. If we truly care about public education, if we truly want to invest our winnings, if we truly give a damn, we cannot look away. Someday soon, probably today, or at a reunion event tomorrow, someone's going to ask you about your job. A brilliant high school student is going to ask for an internship. A college student is going to tell you that they have good grades, and then tell you they have no idea what to do with the rest of their life. They won the educational lottery too, but they don't know what to do with the winnings. If they can learn, and if you trust them, please tell them that with a steady hand, an attentive eye, and a straight back, they could make a school where kids are always safe and never bored. Tell them worst case scenario, they become a teacher and take 4 minutes of your time at a reunion a few years from now. Tell them best case scenario, they teach for 1 year and go write Hamilton. Tell them that teaching is a political act. It is hands-on activism. It is community organizing. It is high-tech optimism and low-tech relationship building. It is the reason that they can choose a career, and it is a career worth choosing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Okay, we have the class of 2013. I know you're here. And I believe it's Simon Block.
Thanks, everybody. First, I want to second pretty much everything. What's your name, Ben? I want to second Sorry, I don't know. I think that's really valuable words. I could not have said it better. Good afternoon. I'm Simon Block, and it is my tremendous honor and pleasure to stand here as an alumnus of the class of 2013. Let's go. Some of my classmates might remember when I gave my graduation speech and almost passed out on stage, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Before I get started, is Eleanor Glueck here from the class of 1916? She left her bio textbook at my place. She was tutoring me on leeches. That's a joke about progress in medicine. I hope none of you guys are still bloodletting. I'm going to keep this brief. We've already had some wonderful remarks from some really incredible, more seasoned alumni. Ms. Blaze, I'm really glad you took your time at the podium. Respect. In all seriousness, I have to express how humbling it is to be standing before you all today. Multiple generations of notable alumni gathered under one roof with a similar goal: to form a brain trust and finally disrupt capitalism. Let's do it. Nobody tell Miss Curtis in the econ department. Or Ira, whoever that is. No, I'm sorry. No, God bless, I'm sorry. My fellow classmates, how are you? It's been a long time. It's weird, I saw Rachel Gonzalez every day for 14 years and then suddenly it was complete radio silence. We missed some huge milestones. Did you know Rocktim Ghosh is getting his doctorate in physical therapy? That's true. Did you know that Garrett Ng ghost wrote half of Post Malone's last rap album? That is not true. But look, I can't speak to my classmates' decades of progress in the fields that they graduated in because we've only graduated like 5 years ago. Give us some time, Jesus. So in reflecting on our time at Hunter, I tried to mitigate the effects of recency bias. I'm serious. The college process felt like a multi-year saga. I'm grateful for the support from the school, but I still wish that applying to school didn't consume so much of my final months in this building, like my last moments with you all. For me, the first memories that come to mind are from Hunter Theater. The theater department, especially Meg Sturiano, taught me how to collaborate, how to swallow my pride, and it's really hot, I'm sorry. I literally feel like I'm like, just give me a second. Jesus Christ. Okay, sorry. I'm literally, okay, anyway, whatever. The theater department, thank you. Okay, I'm good. The theater department, especially Meg Sturiano, taught me how to collaborate, how to swallow my pride, and how to work towards someone else's creative vision. I learned what can be accomplished when you start with just some text and a group of people sitting in a circle. I learned that stage managers and techies working in the background often don't get enough credit for the projects that we do at this school, you know? Hell yeah. At Hunter, we all learned crucial lessons like this, regardless of our academic path or our extracurriculars. Whether you were at Hunter for 6 years or for 14, it was our home. Hunter was our pasture as the world changed around us. I remember watching Obama's inauguration on a smartboard in 8th grade. In 9th grade, the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig exploded, and it prompted us all to have a long discussion about climate change and the implications of that. In 10th grade, Seth Abrams chose his class sweatshirt nickname to be Death Abrams. Truly historic. And that brings me to the current era. It's been just a few years since we had our last class in this building, yet the problems we face have changed. It's prompted me to revisit the tools that I gained at this school and inquire how they might be most useful in today's climate. AP Statistics with Mr. Butts comes to mind. In that class, we learned how to quantify bias, tease out correlation versus causation, and account for error honestly. It was a humbling class. It taught me to question what I read, along with my own assumptions. I took more advanced math and stat classes in college, but none had the same impact on my understanding of the world. And so, as my previous speaker said, an education of this caliber is incredibly rare. It's a privilege we cannot afford to take for granted given the disparity and opportunity that exists today. I've gotten better at reminding myself of this, but it's not easy. Some of my classmates are years ahead of me on this. You were grappling with tough questions on race and class while I was picking out what socks to wear to Sasha's house. And that's why I'm so grateful to still be inspired by and challenged by my peers on the quest towards self-discovery and towards a greater understanding of the world. Thank you. It's a tremendous honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you for coming. Thank you to all the alumni who came here today. So let's continue this conversation. We're going outside, right? Right, Marge?